This is Amy and Chris on the Align podcast today. And Chris, we're here to feature you as our guest speaker. And we'd love to start by hearing a little bit about you.
Sure. I work for a company called Boak and Sons right here in Youngstown, Ohio. I live with my wife. We have one son and four grandkids. A little
Wow,
bit personal side there, but I've been in construction since I got out of college. I went to Kent State University
nice.
here in Kent, Ohio,
Yeah.
and got into commercial roofing right out of there, and it's led me to where I'm at today. Today, I'm the vice president of operations of Boak and Sons Roofing.
Oh, nice, nice, wonderful. So you've been with them for quite a long time then.
I did. I started with Boak and Sons in 1999. Yeah.
Okay. And how is business out that way? What exactly do y'all focus on?
We're a pretty diverse company. We have both residential and commercial divisions. We do commercial roofing, we do residential roofing, we do siding, we do architectural sheet metals, any type of insulation that you could need for a home or a commercial facility. We handle it all from fiberglass all the way down to polyurethane foam.
Yeah.
But again, we do it for both residential and commercial customers.
Nice, nice. And as far as commercial and residential, how do you feel like that's what market is doing better right now, do you think?
You know, I believe that the commercial has been stronger.
Yeah.
We've done well both. To be honest with you,
Hmm.
it seems like if you look at by division of what we do, insulation, roofing, sheet metal, it seems like that the insulation has stayed busier residentially than shingles this year.
Yeah.
I think we've had plenty of work to do, but the call volume has definitely been decreased this year. The commercial roofing. It was really soft at the beginning of the year. I think people were looking at what are interest rates going to do and how's this going to impact my price.
Tariffs and everything, right?
Yeah, so pricing volatility doesn't help, consumer confidence, as you're
No.
well aware. But I think as the year's gone on, I don't know if buyers have become accustomed to it, but the year certainly picked up and
Yeah.
had a very, thankfully we've had a pretty busy year. Our staff's been just on fire this year and really
That's
feeling
great.
challenged to get out there and hustle. I think through COVID, it got people, everybody was so busy, it got people thinking that there was infinite work out there. And
Right.
regain our focus, really put the axe to the grind, and our team has done very, very well.
That's wonderful. Yeah, because there's a lot of companies that, struggle. I think like 5% of roofing companies that start up actually make it.
Hmm.
So, that's a great that's a hard statistic to to go in at. But y'all been around.
It's
So how
so.
many years has is Boak and Sons, right?
Mhm.
How long have they been around?
We started in 1974, so we are at 51 years. Last year we celebrated our 50th anniversary, but yeah, 51 years, long time.
Yeah, I did 22 years in the industry with a company out of Houston called Antex Roofing. And
Okay.
I started there when I was 17. And they've been around since 1972. And I worked my way up to vice president. So,
Wow.
yeah, so I did college on the side and I worked there and I just kept moving up and, doing different things. And yeah, ended up running that thing. But that it was great, but I tell you, it has waves, right? And we didn't do residential, so we really had to fall back. When new construction would dip down, we really had to fall back on re-roofs and property management type of situations. What do y'all your suppliers at ABC or who do you like or prefer using up there in Ohio?
We've got multiple suppliers. We don't like to. We need multiple suppliers.
Yeah,
And especially COVID taught us that, right?
yeah,
That when you limit yourself to the people you buy from, but we don't buy just from just anybody. We do believe in standing relationships, not only with our customers but with our suppliers too. So
right.
we do buy from ABC, a company called Banner Supply, and SRS. I'm sure you've heard of them.
Yeah,
We buy a decent amount of material from them, a little bit from QXO, but since the it was Beacon before we bought
yeah.
from, but they're a very small supplier of what we do, but we enjoy that relationship as well.
Yeah, and I find that, as far as like commercial roofing, do you utilize JF or Duralast or John Mansville? Which ones are you finding the most success with and warranty wise, insulation wise, where do you find the best manufacturer at?
We have we find the best relationship with tier one manufacturers, right? Tier one manufacturers to us are Carlisle,
Right.
Johns Manville, Elevate. GAF is really one, but we do a little bit of GAF, but not very much. We've really the bulk of what we've done has been Carlisle. We were just awarded the Perfection Award again, and I can't
Yeah.
even tell you the years we've gotten it. Our guys in the field have really done a great job of maintaining quality, but the recognition tells us where we're doing most of our work. So we do
Yeah.
a lot of Johns Manville as well. Insulation, we do a lot of Johns Manville, Owens Corning. Shingles, a lot of Owens Corning.
Yeah. And those yearly client trips are not bad either.
Oh, I've benefited on a couple of those. Those are
Yeah.
not bad whatsoever. Yeah, it is
No,
fun.
they're not. I believe my boss. I talk to him pretty regularly, and I still consult with him a little bit. And I think they went to Japan. I think John Mansfield went to Japan, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken. It was a month or two ago. So that was a really great trip. And I never thought I'd see that man ever go to Japan, but he did. And he's very old, blue collar, old school, and he's like 72 now. So to get him to go to Japan at 72 was pretty impressive. So yeah.
you got to live, right? We work
Yeah,
hard. You need
you
to
only live
enjoy it.
once. So,
Absolutely,
you
absolutely.
know, there's a lot of competition, being the fact that most roofing companies are not successful, after the first 2 or 3 years. Given that though, there's a lot of competition the opening floodgates, so to say. How do you see that playing out in the industry with your margins and your competition and everything going on?
You know, that's really every year. Every year
Yeah,
there's new people. When you were talking about 5% of residential roofers making it, I mean, you really see people. COVID really brought out anybody who wanted to own a business really felt that they could,
yeah,
and and it's done good and bad for our industry, right? People who
yeah.
don't know how to run businesses, who are very good at roofing, maybe didn't understand the business side of it as well as they should. And then, I mean, we were bidding on projects. The pricing was just all over the board.
Crazy. Yeah, it went crazy.
And material prices, material prices were,
You didn't know
well,
what you're gonna get. Yeah.
it was priced at time of delivery. And then they didn't tell you when it was going to deliver.
No, no, it was crazy because you couldn't forecast anything.
Right. And we've been a part of this a long time. We've seen everything from reverse auctions on roofing. We saw people get stung on that, you
Yeah,
know, and it's the same thing. It seems like it's the same pitfalls. Everybody thinks they can do it cheaper and maintain quality and maintain the standard that the customer's expecting.
right.
And very hard to do. And we've seen, in 50 years, we've seen people come and go. We're seeing, bidding seems to be normalizing a little bit with a wider playing field. So, uh, you know, I
That
guess
helps a little bit. Yeah,
back to your question. I think it's just volatile. I mean, it hasn't been normal. There's really no way. You've got to be quick to adapt and quick to make adjustments. You've got to be on the pulse of what's going on out there in the marketplace and then implementing changes quickly. I mean, bing, bang, boom. If you're
yeah, you
not,
do.
you're either gonna not get the job because your pricing is too high, or you're gonna lose money because your pricing is too low. One or the
Yeah,
other.
because it's not the 1990s anymore where you can go in there and put 40 or 50% profit margin in there and get
Ah,
it. You don't have it's not those days anymore, unfortunately. It's not how it
no.
works. I know some companies that are scrambling, some guys and women that I talk to on here that, they're scrambling to make 10%. And to run a company with 70 or 80 or 100 employees, that is really hard to
Yeah.
keep on to maintain because you're always having those issues that break down out in the field that you've got to address. So those profit margins get really squeezed pretty tight sometimes, and it's unfortunate, but that's where we're at today. So
It really is where we're at today, and that's why quality can't be. You can't let quality suffer. The
no,
only
you
thing
can't cut corners.
really That's the only thing that can differentiate you. If you're not going to put down a good product, you can't expect that people are going to continue to stay with you and
Right.
continue to work with you.
Too many
So
other options.
you're exactly right. They're going to try somebody else.
Right. Yeah, and bringing that into the picture, what we do here and everything. With that being said, where do you see the industry going with technology, AI, and everything that's happening, like in the world in general, but in this field, where do you see it heading in the next 3 to 5 years? Do you see things changing? Do you see them staying the same? What do you think the big AI boom or the tech boom in general and where it's headed is going to take the roofing industry.
I mean, it's strictly my opinion, and
Yeah.
AI is something that I've tried to educate myself on plenty.
Yeah.
But, AI, it's going to depend on the speed of development. AI is going to change what we do. In three to
It's
five years.
inevitable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to change what we do. It's going to change how you bid. It's going to change how you deal with customers. It's going to change how you deal with crews. It's going to change how you work. How quickly that happens, I don't know. I was just at some training last week, and they talked a lot about AI and through construction and takeoff.
Big time.
All the different aspects it can benefit you, and even into a little bit of robotics. I don't think that in 3 to 5 years we're going to see robotics making a big difference in conjunction with AI, but I do think it's going to help innovation. I mean, we all know that in what we do in roofing, there's just a lack of skilled labor, and if
Yeah.
you don't know that there's a lack of skilled labor, then you better figure it out pretty quick.
Right.
So I'm hoping that it impacts that side and helps relieve some of that pain. It's going to take probably longer than 3 to 5 years to do that. But over
Yeah.
the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see companies that are going to, and not just construction companies, you're going to see all these people try
It's
to innovate.
everywhere.
Yeah, they're going to innovate a product and they're going to try and fit it into the marketplace for construction. And when you see, people
It's already
seeing
happening, like in operations, like the
it,
operational side of it. It's already happening.
it
Um,
really is. And people, I think people downplay construction and the value of AI in that and where they'll start to innovate.
yeah,
But
no, I see it every day.
when you see transactions for companies like SRS for $18 billion, you have to start to, and the U.S. Steel deal was worth like 12
Yeah,
billion
it's
dollars.
crazy. Yep.
You have to think that. I mean, there's going to be a lot of focus on it, and if you're not, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah, I completely agree, and that's what kind of what we do. But yeah, just to give you an idea, so 3 months ago, I have an AI team that we go in and we look at businesses and we kind of dissect them
Hmm.
and we break them down and we find their pain points and then we try and find where AI can simplify and make all these solutions and increase your margin and do all these things that help your company grow and build but just and function better, right? And function like where your competitors are going to be functioning. But just to give you an example, so like 3 months ago we had 10,000 AI tools.
Hmm.
So now I have 41,000 as of last week. So that just gives you like an insane idea of like how fast the AI market is replicating, it's moving, it's learning. It is until you get inside of it and you see what these API guys and these integration and automation specialists do, which I have like 3 or 4 of them on my team that are phenomenal. But until you get in there and like what last week we went on and we were doing some automations for a company and that went into their QuickBooks and helped do even more analytics.
Hmm.
And so we were in there, and just the difference from last week to this week when we got on the call this on Tuesday morning, the upgrades had already been implanted. So what we were trying to do last week to really hone it in had already been the solutions had already come forefront. Like it is at such a rapid pace. So when I say 3 to 5 years, I think that's going to be there in 3 to 5 years. I don't think there's any question because I see on the inside like how fast it's moving.
Yeah.
But I think I do agree with you on the robot side of it. I do not think like where you have actual robots taking over, people in the field. I don't. I think it's going to be a good 8 to 10, 12 years before we see that type of thing really happening. I
Hmm.
do think AI is going to speed it up, but I don't think that that's going to be where AI is going to help the construction business. I see it helping on the interior, the automations, your inflows, your outflows, your daily operations, your time management, and
Yeah.
where you become roofing companies are able to contracting companies in general are able to become that so efficient, right? That you're getting so lean and you're operating at such a high level. That's what
Hmm.
you try to do, and that's where I'm seeing AI help most construction companies.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Amy. I think that AI is going to really streamline, and you're right. Their companies are going to operate at a high level of efficiency.
Yeah,
The people that are not going to accept it. I mean, there's a lot of distrust in AI,
yeah,
and right now it needs a lot of double checking. I wouldn't trust AI
yeah.
to just do without oversight.
No, you have to have what I call it, and that's what I call our team. We are HI and AI working together. So we're
Hmm.
human intelligence with AI and all the human oversight. So that's what we do. And
Hmm.
I think that's why people, do come on board or, do allow us to come in and dive into their companies and see what's going on, simply because that I have the human oversight and the intelligence of a team that overlooks and sees, okay, how can we keep making this more efficient? How can we keep making it better as we go through here month to month, year to year, and establish a steady growth plan? And again, with a company like yours that have been around forever, you guys know what you're doing. You've been doing this so long, you know exactly what doesn't work, you know exactly what does work. And people in your situation are really fearful of implementing AI because number one, they don't know how to. They know it's out there, they know there's all these benefits to it, but they don't know how to bridge the gap of what they wherever their pain points are, and then how to implement it into their system and it be effective.
Hmm.
That's where we come in. But the point is, a lot of people don't want to implement it because of that fact is they don't know how to or where to start, and they don't know how effective it will be.
Hmm.
So, we do case studies and we've done different things to, help people get more comfortable and give these things a try. But the fact of the matter is that it is coming. It's like a tidal wave. And I did this to try and get out there because I've been in the industry so long and try and do more. I do these podcasts for more of contractor and fellow entrepreneur, like, awareness, because it is happening in this industry.
Hmm.
And, companies like yours, you're going to be competing against somebody who might not be that great right now, has only been around for 5 or 7 or 8 years, has figured it out a little bit, but
Hmm.
then they implement the new technologies and they're able to get that much more efficient and gain that much more traction, right? By
Hmm.
that efficiency. And that changes the game for them. And then it
Hmm.
gives you a headache. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Well, I think that's been, it's been since the beginning of the contracting age, right? Is one
right.
contractor giving another contractor a headache, and
Yeah.
that's this is part of market adaptation. I
Right.
mean, more part of that. And if you're gonna embrace it and you're gonna accept it, I think you're gonna excel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, a company that has been around as long as you guys have and works as well as you probably have things working, where would you still say like your biggest pain points are? Where do you find your company really, having to repeated problem that you're always having to deal with, whether that be in operations at the beginning, estimating, contractor relationships? Where is your biggest pain point?
The biggest pain point we're running into is man, to sit and pick one. I mean, there are pain points in operating any business, right? I mean,
Oh
we can
yeah.
look at the field and we can look at,
And there always will be. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, looking at having skilled labor is probably one of our biggest pain points. I mean,
Yeah.
I could put 30 people to work tomorrow. I mean, that's
Hmm.
just who we are. But on the inside, I think it's really, integrating AI. I think we need to look at that, and I think one of the pain points is not really knowing where you're going to go into the next phase of your business. And we don't know how AI is going to impact it yet or what it's going to do. It's going to start to come quickly, I think, and that's
Yeah.
something that's causing us a little bit of pain right now. But it's been mostly that. We've been very fortunate to have a good full staff. We do have a pretty organized business. The owner of our company, he's very forward thinking and
That's
very
great.
so we have a pretty structured business. So I think our largest pain point is really in qualified people in the field, because we're committed to quality, we're committed to doing it right, and we're not going to just put anybody out there to do anything. And
Right.
we hire our own employees. We're not, hiring crews just from anywhere with anyone.
Right.
So that really controls our growth to a point.
Yeah.
And so developing, roofing systems that are going to be less labor intensive to install is going to be important to us too.
Okay. All right. And I wanted to ask you this. What estimating platforms do y'all use? Do you do it old school, or do you have some platforms that you enjoy using?
Yeah, we have platforms we enjoy using, and depending on the department, whether it's roofing or insulation, there are different platforms we use for each. But no, we're really not about old school. I mean, paper estimates and
Yeah.
it's, that kind of stuff
You'd be
is.
surprised how many people still are.
I kn- I know, I know. When I was put, in my role, one of the biggest things was getting people to stop using paper for estimates and
It's hard,
copy
yeah.
here to here to here, and the chances that from all that you're such risk for copying something wrong, and errors are prevalent,
Hmm.
and then you can't read handwriting. So it's been
Yeah.
good. And the great thing is though is when people see it, they're like, I want it.
Yeah.
This is better. This is great. It's so much easier. It's streamlined. It's just getting them to see how good it can be.
Well, that's great. It's good that y'all have the open mind that you have because there's so many people that just they don't, and unfortunately they're going to fall behind in this industry if they don't get onto that same playing field, and that's where the issue is. Your plans for growth really it sounds like depend on being able to find those skilled workers.
Hmm.
So that would be kind of top of the list to try and generate for y'all to have that growth and your relationships with your general contractors. How's that going? And do you think your residential clientele could be increased, or do you just not have the resources and skilled labor to make that effective?
I mean, I mean, sure. Could we use more clientele? I mean,
Yeah,
anybody
who
says,
doesn't? Yeah,
hey, you're crazy to say you can't use more clientele, right?
right.
But on our residential side, we used to advertise. You'd see us on TV, on the residential side,
Yeah,
and you'd see us on TV, and then the owners kind of taking a stance and being around as long as we have in the market we serve for residential roofing. We're a pretty well known name. Our
yeah,
trucks are all
helps.
rolling billboards. We have 105 vehicles on the road, so they're
Yeah,
rolling billboards all around town. People see us, and hopefully it helps them think of us. But the owner of our company has really taken the stance of giving back to the community,
that's
and
awesome.
that's something that he's invested heavily in, more than he ever invested in advertising. He's invested in that, and that's really helped keep our residential clientele coming in.
Yeah,
The commercial side with general contractors, we have really good relationships with our general contractors. I mean, I think they like our service. We understand their schedules, we understand their pain points, and we understand
right.
getting the job done and getting it done right. We understand the thoroughness of the value of paperwork in today's construction world. And our hope is that they enjoy working with us, and we give them a good product in the end.
Well, I have to say that, I've had a lot of people on here and I talked to a lot of people and being in the field, as long as I was, which is why I decided to do this is because it is, you guys have your stuff together so much better than everybody else, which is all, really, there's something to say for that. And your owner's priorities and your team, your employee staffing priorities seem to be in the right place. So you're already one step around or ahead of everybody else with that thinking, because putting back into the community and the people you work with is what makes you great, right?
Mhm.
So that's really helps define industries, and it helps define the big players in those industries, and that's what y'all are really seem to be very good at. Chris, it's been great having you on. Your
It's been great.
insights and the way your company is functioning really seems to be at top level, and what your owner's doing. And we always love to hear about giving back to your team and your community. That's really where the heart of it is, and that's really great. And I think that insight really helps people in the industry realize where their priorities need to be too. So
Hmm.
that's awesome. So thank you so much for coming on. And I hope to have you on again as this AI revolution's happening as we move through it. We want to have you back. So
Sounds great, Amy. Thank you so much for having me on today. I
all right.
appreciate it.
Hey, you have a safe and wonderful Labor Day weekend too.
You do the same.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.